Earlier this year, my wife and I took a road trip all the way from Asheville, North Carolina to Los Angeles, California in just about 2 weeks. In total, we traveled right about, I think it was like 5,000 or 6,000 miles. We covered, I think, 13 or 14 different states. And we did all of this in my 1992 Toyota Previa. Obviously, a lot of work went into making that trip a success. And now that it's been some time since being back at work here at Ken Wilson Ford, I figured I would take a little bit of time to collect my thoughts and kind of offer up some tips and tricks on how you could take a cross-country road trip in any vehicle, whether it's a new one or the vehicle you own right now. All right, so to get things started, obviously the big things we have to hit on is vehicle maintenance. It seems like an obvious thing, but I figured I'd go ahead and list out some of the things that will kind of better prep you for what you should do before you take a road trip. Again, doesn't matter if it's a short one or a long one. So we're gonna start with something obvious, and I would highly recommend making sure you have a very recent oil change. Fresh oil filter, and while you're there, go ahead and replace all of your filters. Your air filters, your fuel filter if your car has one, and even the cabin air filter that's inside the car. If you do all of that stuff, especially if you go ahead and do a tune-up at the same time, you're gonna have your best opportunity to make sure that not only is the vehicle gonna be reliable and run well, but you're gonna hopefully maximize your fuel efficiency. The next thing that I recommend is to make sure that your HVAC system has been checked by a professional. That means that your air conditioning, your heat, your cooling system for the engine, everything is in tip-top shape, because you don't want to be at the beach or in the middle of the desert without AC. And same thing, if you're climbing mountains in Montana or Colorado, you don't want to get all the way to the top and find out that you don't have heat or you've got a coolant leak somewhere. So you want to make sure that you get that checked out and get a service done if it's time for that. Now, the big thing you're going to want to do before you actually hit the road is you're going to want to check all of your fluids in the engine. That's going to be, you're going to want to check your engine oil. You're going to want to make sure that your coolant is topped off. You're going to want to check your brake fluid, any kind of fluid that's on the car. If you're able to check your automatic transmission fluid, you want to make sure you check that also. Even if you just had everything back from the shop, before you actually leave and start putting miles in the vehicle, you want to make sure everything is topped up. Now, ideally, if you're doing all this beforehand, whether you're doing it yourself or you're having a shop or somebody do it for you, you want to check for any kind of leaks, major leaks that is. Obviously, a lot of older vehicles like this one here, this is like an older Thunderbird we've got here, is going to have leaks. My 1992 Previa definitely had some leaks. We had some oil leaks off the oil pan and some other things. So if you've got any kind of major oil leaks, if you've got the budget for it, go ahead and get that stuff fixed beforehand. So as you're going on your road trip, especially if you're going on a longer one, you don't have to worry about topping off your oil or worrying about is your coolant topped off or all that kind of stuff while you're on the road trip. The next thing you're going to want to do is to go around your vehicle and check all of your lights. Check your high beams, check your low beams, check your blinkers, check your hazards, check your fog lights, check every light, check your tail lights. Even check your dome lights, all your little interior lights. You want to make sure all of those are in working order and have been replaced and are in good shape. Obviously, if you're taking a road trip, you want to make sure that not only the car is legal, but is safe to drive. If you've got older headlights and they're very dim, or if they've got maybe some hazing going on the headlight housings themselves, now would be the perfect time to actually go through and have somebody clean those up. You don't want to be driving at night and not be able to see. All right, so the next thing you want to do is you want to locate where the spare tire is for your vehicle, or even if it has one, because some don't nowadays. And you want to not only make sure where your spare tire is, but you want to make sure you actually have your jack and whatever tools you're supposed to have for that as well. You don't want to be on the side of the highway and be missing the handle for your jack or anything like that. And then more importantly, especially if you have never used your spare tire like a lot of us have, is you want to make sure that the spare tire is actually in good shape and has air in it. I'd be willing to bet the spare tire that is in your vehicle right now, especially if it's a 10-year-old vehicle or older, is probably not aired up. It might only have 10 or 12 pounds of air in it. You're going to need to check that before you actually get on the road. Now, while we're on the topic of tires, you obviously want to make sure and walk around your vehicle or have a mechanic check out all of your tires and look for any kind of signs dry rot. As you can see, these tires, not only do we have a flat on this Fiesta specifically, but we can kind of see on the side of the tire here that we actually have some kind of dry rot or some kind of wear going on here. And we can even see with this one here, these tires are very old. They do have some tread, but you want to check that over. You want to make sure that you've got even tread across all of your tires. And then while you're there, you want to actually look and make sure, you want to check the tire pressures on those as well. Now, every manufacturer is going to have their recommended tire pressures listed, usually on the sticker in the door. We'll see if this Subaru has it where it should. So you can see, here we go, we've got it right here on the A-pillar. So this is where you're going to want to check, and it'll tell you exactly what your recommended tire pressures are. And I would even recommend carrying a tire gauge in the glove box, just because, you know, every other fuel up or something like that, it's probably a good idea just to check your tires and make sure that your pressures are doing what they should be. If your pressures are too high or too low, that's going to really affect how the vehicle drives and potentially even affect your fuel economy. So that's kind of a big deal before you get on the road, is you want to check that over and make sure everything is good to go. Next, you want to make sure that you've got really good washer fluid as well as wiper blades on your vehicle. And in my opinion, again, unless you've just done them recently, now would be the best time to replace those wipers as well as go ahead and top off your washer fluid. Now, I personally am a big fan of any of the kind of Rain-X washer fluid. I know everybody just thinks it's just soap and water, but to me personally, the Rain-X washer fluid actually does really good at keeping the windshield clean during rainstorms, and does a little bit of a better job at being able to help wash bugs and stuff off as you get down the highway. And I can tell you, once you start doing several hundred miles a day, the whole front end of your car is just going to be completely plastered with bugs. So you want to spend the extra $4 or $5 to get really good washer fluid, and go ahead and spend an extra 20 or 30 bucks to get really good wiper blades. Nowadays, you can get those silicone blades, which are much smoother to going over the glass, and they actually last a whole lot longer. So that would be the perfect time to go ahead and treat your car to good wiper blades. And also, don't forget about your rear wiper blade. It's really easy to kind of forget about the one back here as well, which a lot of times you don't always use. But if you do get stuck in a rainstorm or something like that, you definitely don't want to have issues with being able to see out of your back window. Something else that I am a big believer on before you take a road trip, especially a longer road trip, is go through your car and really get it cleaned up. As you can see with this car here, this thing is absolutely disgusting inside here. We've got mud caked on things. We've got all kinds of trash and garbage in the seats. You know, the dashboard hasn't been wiped down in a long time. You got trash in the door cards. You've just got all kinds of mess going on in here. And this is, honestly, if you're going to be living in this car for a few weeks, you do not want to be living in this kind of a trash heap. So I would really recommend taking a good set of time, you know, just put the time aside and go to a car wash, you know, maybe get it detailed or something like that. You want to make sure the outside is clean. You want it to look good and be a slippery going down the road. But then at the same time, you really want to make sure that the interior is cleaned out so that it doesn't have any kind of weird smells. You know, you've gotten out all the extra crap that you don't need while you're going down the road, because we all have stuff in our glove box that we've totally forgot about. You know, registration cards from years ago and stuff like that. But it's the perfect time to go ahead and do a deep clean of your car. Get in there and shampoo those carpets. Get all those nasty fries and, you know, food crumbs and stuff like that from between the seats. Get all that cleaned up so you really feel comfortable and you feel like you're at home when you're spending hours and hours inside your vehicle. Now, on top of that, I would even recommend packing some very basic car wash supplies. You know, we're talking glass cleaner wipes. We're talking maybe wheel cleaner if you've got, you know, a lot of brake dust, leather wipes, and even just some extra towels, like some little microfiber hand towels. So if you need to, you could get out and maybe, you know, wipe your windshield down if you're not near a service station, or you can go through and clean your headlights if they're getting kind of gunked up with bugs and stuff like that. So I would really recommend keeping some of that with you. You know, especially if you're on a longer road trip like we were, being able to just kind of wipe down the major surfaces of the car while we were in there just really made it feel like home, and just kind of makes for a much more pleasant driving experience. Now, this is one of those things where every vehicle is going to be different. If you've got a newer vehicle, I think, like this Explorer right here, and it's in really good mechanical shape, you know, you've got good maintenance history on it, you don't have any oil leaks and things like that, then you could probably skip this step. But if you're like a lot of us that are driving a slightly older vehicle or something with more miles on it, especially if you're where you have any kind of leaks that you haven't decided to fix or address. Then you definitely want to bring some extra fluids with you. And I'm talking, you know, major stuff like engine oil, just maybe a quart or two of that, maybe a bottle of transmission fluid. Transmission fluid is usually both used in the actual transmission of the vehicle as well as the power steering of the vehicle. So if you've got leaks there, it's just good to have it with you. And then same thing with coolant, or even just like a little, you know, 5-gallon bucket or 2-gallon bucket of water or something like that. Keep that with you, especially if you're going to be in a hot climate. You do not want to be stuck on the side of the road with an overheating engine and no good way to top that off. And at the same thing, if you're at the fueling stations or a service station or something like that and you've got to buy the stuff on the fly, you're going to pay sometimes twice as much for, you know, a quart of oil or something like that than if you were just pick it up at the local, you know, Walmart or auto parts store and have it with you when you're ready to go. I'd even go so far to recommend having, if you know you're going to be doing long stints of driving or you're going to be out there in kind of more remote areas, it's like a good idea just to pack a small gas can. When we went to California, we brought a gas can with us and it was empty during the majority of the trip. When we got to some of those areas out in the desert and we knew that we were going to be further and further away from fuel stops, we went ahead and filled it up as a 5-gallon can. We had plenty of space for it. We didn't have any fuel smell or anything like that going in the vehicle. And that way, no matter where we were, if we were having an issue, because sometimes we'd get different fuel economy. Sometimes we'd get, you know, better fuel economy in some areas and worse in other areas, just depended on the temperature, the road conditions, all kinds of different things. But it was really good to have. And then we actually were able to use that right towards the end of the trip just to kind of fill up right before we came home. So I'd recommend just having all kinds of extra fluids packed away in the trunk or the hatchback. All right, now that we've spent some time going over some of the maintenance items and kind of pre-inspection things you should do before your road trip, now we're going to talk about kind of some best practices on how to handle the interior of your vehicle as far as packing luggage, you know, kind of some best tips and tricks and stuff like that there. So one of the first things I'd recommend with luggage loading is, if at all possible, I am not usually a huge fan of roof-mounted luggage racks or strapping things down on the roof, you know, one of those big boxes or tying things down up here. I would use that as a last resort, mainly because it will actually slow the vehicle down when you're going down the highway. It'll actually decrease your fuel economy. It does a lot. So if you're one that has too many people and not enough space, if you can, maybe get like a luggage rack or something like that that would go on the back of your hitch, like a little box behind it, because that will not have any kind of negative effect on your luggage, you know, your driving capabilities, things like that. And then beyond that, I would highly recommend, for anybody that's, you know, done a lot of driving, they will understand what I'm talking about. If you can, try to load your luggage as low and flat as possible. Specifically, if you can keep things below the window lines and definitely below the area of the rear window. If you can kind of keep everything below that area, that's going to mean that you're going to be able to see out of the windows. You're not going to be creating any blind spots, and that way it's going to be much safer to drive for hours and hours on the highway. Now, as far as like an extra pro tip would be, now again, we were planning on being in the car for about 2 weeks straight, with, you know, everything from camping to hotel stops and all kinds of things in between. So rather than packing things in a traditional way where you've got, you know, all your stuff stuffed into like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 different luggage compartments, different things like that, we actually opted to pick up some plastic drawers at Walmart and use some totes and things like that. So we were able to actually stack the plastic drawers in the back of the hatchback just like you would with your dresser at home. So you had like your t-shirts and shorts and extra shoes and stuff like that packed in these drawers, and then we would have a duffel bag or a gym bag or something like that. So when we would actually check into the hotel, rather than having to lug in, you know, 2, 3, or 4 or 5 different huge bags, you know, for only maybe one outfit or your shower kit or something like that, we were actually able to use the drawers to come back and pack that bag. So all we had to do is bring in, you know, maybe 1 or 2 bags into the hotel. So it made our check-in and checkout process way more efficient. And at the same time, we even had like an extra, you know, huge duffel bag for laundry. So as we had things that would get dirty, we would just stuff them in that huge duffel bag and just leave it in there until the end of the trip so we could kind of do laundry once we got home. That's a little pro tip, something that worked well for us. Something else that worked really well for us on our road trip, and I'd recommend, is to go ahead and have some snacks and drinks packed ahead of time. We actually went and bought I think it was like 2 full cases of water. I think there were like 48 bottles per each case, and we kept those stacked in the back. And then we ended up bringing some kind of like fruit cups and things like that as well, because, you know, we all kind of get snacky and, you know, hangry when we're on the road. So it's good to have some of that stuff already with you, some granola bars, some crackers, you know, preferably things that aren't going to melt, so you've got things you can snack on while you're going down the road. Now, if you really want to get fancy with things, we were able to dig out of, you know, something that I used when I was a kid on a road trip, was to get a plug-in cooler for the van. You can still buy these different things, I think even possibly like at Walmart or definitely online. Even if you just had a cooler and you threw some ice in it, because usually ice is easy to get from, you know, hotels or from anything like that. Having the cooler and being able to just reach in there and have cold waters, cold juices, things like that, or being able to maybe put like, I don't know, some sandwich meat or cheese or something like that and keep it cool, was a huge game changer for us, as it gave us, you know, just a really nice refreshing drink while we were driving around. And we didn't have to stop and always buy $2 and $3 sodas at the gas station every single time. So that was something that really worked well for us. Something else that worked out well for us was to go ahead and get some sort of a way to keep all of your trash together. You know, as you've got the different snacks and drinks and stuff like that, you're gonna end up with, you know, empty bottles, things like that. So if you get maybe like, you know, something you can hang from the headrests, there's all kinds of different, you know, hard and soft different trash bags you can get, or maybe something you just stick on the floor between the seats, or maybe something like just a little bag that you can hang on the shifter up front. But just some way to kind of collect all your trash, so you've just got one easy spot to stick it, and that way every time you fuel up, or maybe, you know, you get lunch or something like that, you can just grab all that stuff out and throw it in the trash while you're there. It just kind of helps with the organization, especially if you're keeping your car clean and all that as well. Something else I'm a huge fan of, especially if you have an older vehicle like we took on our road trip, is to go ahead and have AAA. Now, a lot of us already have AAA as it is, so if you do, you're golden. AAA is going to cover you for any kind of, like, you know, dead battery, or if you do happen to run out of fuel, or you get a flat tire, you have some sort of engine problem, something like that. It's 100% worth it to have, especially if you're going on a longer road trip. Now, if you don't want to have AAA, you're not a big believer on it, there are some things you can do to kind of hold yourself over. So if you don't have AAA, something we mentioned earlier is to go ahead and carry some extra fluids with you, some gas, maybe some oil, some things like that as well. So that's something I'd recommend if you don't have AAA. It's a good idea to also bring a spare key for the vehicle. You know, we all have a tendency to sometimes forget what's going on, especially when we're outside of our element. So if you actually bring a spare key with you, and kind of a trick that I would use, now I wouldn't use this every single day, but for maybe a few days or a few weeks on a road trip, that'd be perfect. But you can actually take your license plate. Obviously this one doesn't have one on it right now, but if you take your license plate off, and on the back of it, if you just use some duct tape or some clear packing tape or something, tape your spare key on the back of that. Even if it's just a key that will just unlock your doors, it doesn't have to be one that'll start the truck or anything like that. But if you have that stuck back behind there, all you're gonna have to do is get somebody with a screwdriver, or just use your hands to, you know, take off the bolts of the screws, and there you've got your spare key. So that could be something that would really kind of help you there. Something else I'd recommend, especially if you're gonna be doing any kind of travels in the warmer months, is to go ahead and get your windows tinted. For us, being able to be out in the desert and have the windows tinted made a huge difference on how we were able to kind of work with the AC. And I would even recommend maybe just a very light film on the windshield, just to kind of block out some of the sun rays that come down and beach down on the dashboard and on your hands and knees while you're driving. If window tint is not an option, you don't want to do it, budgetary reasons or whatever, then at least go to like a parts store or Walmart and pick up some of those kind of pop-in, those kind of leave-in shades, especially for if you've got the vehicle parked. That way, if you go in and have dinner somewhere, or staying at the hotel, you can have the sun blocked out of the windows, so when you get in, it's much easier to cool down. Or even if you just have those and you want to take a nap or something like that, you could put up one of those shades here to keep the light out, maybe make it a little bit darker while you're taking a nap. Something else that is really easy to forget in the digital age nowadays is to go ahead and set up all of your music playlists. Now, back in the day, we would always make like a mixtape, right? You'd put a CD together or something like that, or you might build a playlist on your iPod or something like that. But go ahead and take that same mentality and apply it to your Spotify or your Pandora, your Apple Music, or just whatever you might even have on your SD card on your phone, go ahead and have that set up and ready to go. And beyond that, if you use any kind of streaming services, go ahead and make your stuff available offline, because I promise you, if you're gonna be on the road for a few hours, you're definitely gonna go through tons of bad cell phone signal, and you're gonna wanna have that stuff locally saved so you can always have your music on you no matter where you are. Now, something else that you could do, especially if you're doing a road trip by yourself, is maybe it's a good time to knock out like an audiobook or something like that. Specifically with me and my wife, we stayed with music and playlists because we had the both of us. But an audiobook or something like that, or a podcast or something like that, would be a great way to kind of pass the time, especially while you're, beating down miles out in the middle of nowhere. Now, on top of that, you're going to have a ton of electronics. You're going to have your cell phone. You might have a GPS. You're going to have probably a camera, maybe a GoPro or something like that. But it's a really good idea to go through and check and make sure you've got all of your cables. You want to make sure you've got something in the car to charge all of your stuff. Maybe it's a good idea to grab some battery banks or power packs or something like that. So even if you're out maybe, hiking, or maybe you do have car trouble or something like that, that you've always got some extra juice for all of your electronics. Stuff like that will really go the distance when it comes to making your road trip successful. A couple more really easy suggestions I have is to make sure you've got a really good pair of sunglasses. And specifically, I'd recommend getting some polarized lenses. They do a lot for cutting out glare. I even wear mine sometimes when it's raining, just because I think it kind of helps to see through some of the wash that you'd have on the road there. So get yourself some sunglasses that are good, that are durable, and then make sure you've got like a pillow and a blanket. If you're not driving by yourself, obviously there's going to be plenty of downtime where you're switching out between drivers, and it'd be a good idea to hop over in the passenger seat or maybe in the back and conk out for a little bit. And being able to actually have a pillow and not maybe trying to stuff up like a sweatshirt or something like that, but having a pillow and being able to be comfortable can really help kind of get some extra Z's in while you're going down the road. Now, here are some bonus tips that went extremely well for us, and we were going through the planning stages of the trip and through the actual execution, kind of the actual driving part of the trip. But I went ahead and planned out, for the most part, our route on Google Maps. I knew exactly where we wanted to end. I knew we were going to start, obviously, and we just kind of went through and just kind of made a list of all the different places that we wanted to stop at while we were along the way. And then I just kind of planned that in. Usually I plan for like maybe an 8 or 9 hour driving day. Some days were longer, some days were really short. Some days we only had like maybe 3 or 4 hours of driving planned. And that meant that we could actually have some time. So, for example, when we did go to the Grand Canyon National Park, we were able to actually spend a huge chunk of our day there. We even built in some extra time for going to LA and Hollywood, so we basically had a whole day or two there. And then we did the same thing in Texas at the beach, and we were there at the Panhandle, Florida, and that whole area there. So kind of have that stuff built in. And then the other thing we used extensively is the Gas Buddy app. Now, I'm not like endorsed or sponsored by anybody, but if you haven't used Gas Buddy, then you're totally missing out. It's basically an app that has all kinds of gas stations and stuff logged online, where users will go on there and say, here's how much gas is for regular, premium, and things like that. So when you're out there driving, if you just filled up your gas and you've got maybe, 3-4 hours before you're gonna fill up again, go ahead and plan out where you wanna go, because if you go ahead and find out where there might be a good truck stop or maybe a Sam's Club or something like that to save you money, you can have that planned in, so you could possibly save maybe 10 or 15 cents per gallon. And that can go a long way for saving money on the road trip. Now, unfortunately, we live in the 2020 coronavirus age of things, and you're gonna wanna make sure you've got some extra stuff packed in there. You're gonna wanna have some hand sanitizer. It's probably a good idea to maybe bring some Clorox wipes, and obviously you're gonna need a face mask for a lot of different states and different attractions, things like that are gonna require it. So there's some things you're definitely gonna make sure you wanna have, at least during this time of year. All right, so that should do it. Hopefully you found some useful tips out of here. Obviously not everything has to be done. A lot depends on how new or old your vehicle is, how mechanically savvy you are, how much budget you have, how far you're going. There's all kinds of things that come into play when it comes to planning these road trips, especially these longer ones. But from somebody who had a big success with a 5,000 plus mile road trip with almost 14 straight days of driving and absolutely no hiccups, we didn't have a flat tire, we didn't have a problem with the vehicle, all of our route plans went perfectly. I figured that I'd maybe share some of these tips. It's getting towards the end of summer, school's gonna possibly be starting back up soon. But honestly, this has been the best year for taking a road trip. If you haven't done so already, I would highly encourage it. If you've got a specific vehicle you want to ask me about to kind of help, get things prepped, I'd be more than happy to help you. If you're planning a drive out west and maybe want to get some tips on maybe some cool places to check out, I've got tons of cool places saved. We've got all my route stuff planned out and still saved on Google Maps when we had that ready. And I've got on my other channel, I've got a lot of videos and stuff like that of some of the places that we stopped and checked out. So as always, I appreciate everybody for watching this. If you like this kind of content, I would highly encourage you to go ahead and like the page, like the video, subscribe to the channel, maybe leave me some comments or some feedback in the comment section of what you'd like to see or talk about next. But as always, thanks so much and have a great day.